Do you think men and women can be friends?
Yes, I do. Do you think they can be friends?
I've seen it go both ways.
Uh-huh.
More times than not, it seems to mess up. But it's not impossible. I've got a number of friends who have managed to do that totally platonically.
Mm-hmm. Do you have female friends?
Do I have female friends? I do have some, but they're mostly kind of from the industry, from podcasting.
Uh-huh.
Michaela Peterson's probably one of my closest friends on the planet.
That's great.
Yeah, so it's some, but it's I think it's tough.
What do you think makes it tough about having female
Well, just that the line between what you have and what you're familiar with when it comes to guys and girls and the line of romantic desirability is pretty fine.
Mm-hmm.
And it only needs to be confused by one party for the friendship to break down, right? It doesn't need both people to want it to happen. If both people want it to happen, the friendship turns into a relationship.
Yeah.
If one person wants it to happen, the friendship's no longer a friendship.
You're right. So it's just...
You've got a lot of different ways. And then let's forget that. Let's say that one of either people gets into a relationship with someone that isn't in the friendship.
Yeah.
Then there's like 2 more people that could have a problem. You can't see that person anymore. I don't like it when you go around her house. I don't like it when you spend time with him. So there's so many different ways that this can go wrong.
I understand. And one thing I would like to point out about that, because men can never understand why females can have male friends, but we tend to believe that we can have male friends. And the reason why we kind of think like this is because we would rather have somebody, a friend who secretly loves us than a female friend that secretly hates us. And you guys don't have to experience that. Usually when men don't like each other, they separate from each other. Women, when they don't like each other, they'll make reservations together and they'll still go on holidays together and they'll still keep in each other's lives. So when we crave male friendships, it's because you don't know the pain, well, not necessarily pain, that sounds a bit exaggerated, but the difficulty in finding good female friendships. They're not as easy for us. For men, if they play a sport together, they can pretty much be friends. For us, you can do everything right with a female friendship. All it takes is, a birthday gone wrong or a boyfriend that they don't like or a boyfriend that they both like. And the entire friendship is destroyed. And there's a safety in a male friendship that we can't find in female friendships because it's very difficult to find women that are totally not threatened by you in any way, shape or form by other women. And that's even when I'm not saying just when you're attractive, even when you're less attractive, you still have friends, similar level of attractiveness. So there is a form of threat even there. So that's the first thing I think why women can have better friendships with men. The other thing is I just think if you are a woman or a man of value beyond your sexual kind of prowess, if you've got something other to offer, isn't it natural that men, women, old, young, everybody's going to gravitate towards you and want to be around you? I just think it's natural. It's a natural consequence of being a valuable person is that people gravitate towards you. In the male and female form, they will gravitate towards you. So to kind of have an arbitrary rule that you can't have male and can't have female, it would only work if your personality is limited. If you have a limited personality, if I'm a girl that only talks about hair and makeup, of course I can only have female friends. But if I'm a woman that can have a lot of different types of conversations, it's natural to be able to connect with different type of people.
There's 2 things that makes me think about. First, I had the director of relationship science from Hinge, Logan Uri, on the show about a year and a half ago. And she taught me about people confuse spark in the beginning of a relationship for something special without realizing that some people are just sparky to everyone.
Yes.
And that was a really interesting insight. And it's kind of like what you're talking about here, right? That if you're somebody that's interesting and trustworthy and of high value in the world, people are just going to gravitate toward you because you're a nice person to know.
Yeah.
You're useful, you're cool, you're fun to be around, you're interesting, right? So there are certain people who just suck others in, right? Now, the second thing, have you heard of the overperception and underperception bias of attraction? So this is really interesting. It's out of evolutionary psychology. So men overperceive the level of attraction that they believe women have toward them, and women underperceive the level of attraction that men have toward them. It's referred to as a failure of cross-sex mind reading. And this shows up very reliably in the data. David Buss put this out in Bad Men or Men Behaving Badly, depending on which country you're in. This is why a boss or a coworker will maybe make an ungainly move, apart from like the creeps like Harvey Weinstein and stuff like that, make an ungainly move because they will believe that, oh yeah, her eyes always linger on me. She always makes it to the water cooler at the same time that I do. She's always in the printing her stuff in the cupboard the same time that I do as well. Maybe I should try and ask her out.
Yeah.
It is much more useful for men to have a smoke alarm that goes off a lot and is wrong a lot, but is right every so often.
Right.
Because the price of missing a potential signal is really high.
Yeah.
And the cost of noticing a signal that wasn't there is essentially zero.
Yeah.
Right? The reverse for women, in speed dating, they did this. They put men and women down at a speed dating event, asked both of them, how attracted were you to the other one? Women regularly rated that they were way less attracted to the man than the man thought.
Aww.
And the reverse true too.
Yeah.
This is the failure of cross-sex mind reading, and it explains so much about the world that men and women inhabit, because we don't inhabit the same world. I don't see my interaction with you the same way that you see your interaction with me. And this reliably smeared across an entire population is why men and women don't understand each other, because we do not have the same brains and we don't see the world in the same way.
But when I do deal with clients who are, men who are very lonely and who struggle with female connection, I do ask them, do you have any female friends? And the answer is invariably no. And I always say that you need them. And they're like, no, we shouldn't be friends. Men and women can't be friends. And I said, but they're training ground for women in the real world, because when you have female friends, they teach you what things upset women, what things make them happy, what they mean by when they text slowly, when they text fast, when they don't text at all. They teach you so much that you can't learn from women directly, because when a woman is in love with a man, she can't help but play stupid games because it's part of a protection strategy. So what she'll do is say she's done when she's not done, or say she doesn't want to sleep with you when she does want to sleep with you. She'll say the opposite of what she truly means. But having female friends helps you understand the human psychology behind a woman in a way that direct experience with them won't. So that's why I actually say, because so many of my male friends will be like, this girl just did that. And I'm like, oh, that means she wants you to do da da da. And you translate it.
You can see the code, not the matrix.
You can see the code because we speak in code.
Yeah. So Destiny, who you should speak to at some point, because I think you guys...
I think is great, by the way.
Destiny's fascinating dude. I think
is fantastic.
Very, very, very big fan of Destiny.
Yeah.
He said that someone asked him what the best piece of dating advice he could give to guys. And he says, during high school, have lots of female friends. Yeah. He apparently just hung with this big group of guys and girls and had tons of female friends and did exactly what you said. We'll get back to talking to Sadia in 1 minute, but first I need to tell you about Factor. If you are too busy this autumn to cook, but still want to make sure that you're eating well, Factor is the solution. With Factor, you can skip the extra trip to the grocery store, plus all of the chopping and prepping and cleaning up, while still getting the flavor and nutritional quality that you need. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes, so all you have to do is heat and enjoy. And right now, their autumn menu has some absolute bangers, like a cranberry pecan chicken and an apple Dijon pork chop. Or if, like me, you're struggling to hit your protein goals, you can try their Protein Plus meals with 30 grams or more of protein per serving. I cannot tell you how big of a life hack it is to only be 2 minutes away from a 30 gram of protein meal at all times. Right now, you can get 50% off by heading to the link in the description below, or going to factormeals.com/MW50 and using the code MW50 at checkout. That's factormeals.com/MW50 and MW50 at checkout. Female friends for guys are like low stakes test relationships.
Absolutely. I growing up, all my friends were men, and I still have a really large circle of male friends. My birthdays, every year, if there's a table like this, 80% of them will be my male friends.
Is that not an Islam thing though, rather than like a friend thing?
As in, like, why?
As far as I'm aware, the typical Muslim family would have like the fucking uncles are over and all of the rest of it.
Yeah, we do have a big male dominance in our world. Technically, we shouldn't really be interacting opposite genders. I know I shouldn't be, but I do. I'll be honest, it's haram. So I do, and I have a huge. But the thing is, what it meant is, I have a plethora of understanding about the male psyche that I could never get from a textbook. A lot of people will say to me when it comes to my content online, they say you have a very unique perspective. How how do you know this? And I said, honestly, it's because I have so many males around me and I have an interest in them. So I'll ask loads of questions and I'll understand their relationships. I meet their girlfriends and I understand. So it gives me up-to-date data about what's going on with men. But I am biased because what happens is I naturally only know men who are confident, but I don't know what the psychology as much of the guy that's stuck in his mum's basement and addicted to pornography. And I think I'm learning that by how triggered they get by certain conversations online. So I just think it, like Destiny said, it definitely does give you a framework of understanding the male brain that you can't get through other women.
That would be an unbelievably unpopular piece of advice to give to a lot of the manosphere, to say that one of the best things you could do would be to be friends with women so that it's a low stakes training ground for finding a partner down the line, because it's kind of common advice that you don't need any women in your life, that like all you need is your boys. What could I ever get from a woman, etc., etc. There was this massive debate. Did the sexual revolution fail that happened this week in LA? And one of my friends, Louise Perry, was on one of the sides. Grimes was opposite her. And Tim Dillon was there. It was mediated by Barry Weiss. And Rob Henderson, one of my friends, tweeted this earlier on. It's amazing. Says, there's lots of discussion at the sexual revolution debate about whether the revolution failed men or failed women, or helped men more than women, or helped women more than men. Nobody asked whether the sexual revolution failed children. People already know. It's too depressing of a topic.
Yeah, absolutely accurate. It basically failed both genders, but when you fail both genders, you fail children because they're the remnants of two broken people. So I think it's massively failed children, but I think in some ways it's definitely favored the man that has no desire to invest and have responsibility. That's the only man that favors from this, is he gets a bunch of women to have low enough self-esteem that they will be able to allow him access without any investment. Meanwhile, while he can then go on to meet the girl he actually wants to be with, whilst this girl is happy to come at 4 a.m. after a night out. So it's the opposite of feminism. It's allowing men free reign over females, and whilst investing very, very little. I don't know who tricked women into thinking that this is beneficial, but whoever did is probably a man.